CIC. 19156, purchase of one 2020 F-150 4x4 pickup truck and one 2020 cab and chassis. 19157, expenditure over 15,000 Chippewa roofing for the fire. 19158, grant application FAA North-South Taxiway at Airport. 19159, grant application ODOT Aviation North-South Taxiway at Airport. 19160, Delta Airport Consultants, task order number 2. 19161, purchase of 2020 Chevrolet 5500 HD LCF for the cemetery. 19162, right-of-way agreement for Wheeling Lake Erie Railway. Emerging Technologies Committee has one. 19163, update for financial software for city software solutions. Item number 2, we have an executive session request.
We'll make a motion at 5:01 to go into executive session for the purpose of preparing, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation and other terms and conditions of their employment to include the mayor,
Keith, Chief,
Keith Durham, Chief,
and Nina.
and Nina.
Yes. Well, Mr. Huber, if he makes it.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lamb,
Yes.
Starcher,
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
We'll be recessing into executive session to discuss the contract negotiations, coming out of executive session, reconvening into finance, but taking no action on the items discussed in the executive session. So now we're in recess for executive session. Everybody has to leave. Okay, welcome. We're back into finance, and the item number 3, 19141, Form Energy Special Improvement District, adopt and enact. Kimberly, do you want to go over a little bit about it? We all had a chance to read it. There's a lot of paper there. I just got confused about the payback. Do they pay money up front? That's the second piece of it. But it was just kind of confusing because it added up to $16,000 and it's supposed to be $25,500.
Well, yeah, the 25,000 is the total loan that the county is borrowing through the Toledo Port Authority. So they will pay it back through, they're basically assessing themselves because the county doesn't pay property taxes, just like we don't pay property taxes. But the assessment still has to go on the county auditor's records.
But they're only paying, getting assessed for $16,209.48, and they're gonna pay cash, it looks like, of $10,806.32.
Correct, yes. So what is your question?
Well, I just was confused, because I thought usually you want the assessment to equal what you're borrowing, but the county here is paying cash for some of it, and they're gonna finance over 3 years.
Right,
Some of it, okay.
yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, so basically, it's just an economic development tool that we're forming, the Energy Special Improvement District, which allows commercial property owners, government entities, nonprofits to make energy efficiency upgrades to their facilities. And it can be anything like LED lighting, it could be HVAC, new windows, new doors, anything that makes their property more energy efficient. They can finance that through a special assessment on their property taxes. But in order to do that, you have to have an ESID, and in order to form the ESID, you have to have a project, and the county was willing to step up to do the first energy project in order to get the whole process off the ground with our goal. So the county can't form the ESID, as you know, the city has to form it. But from here, we're like the central focal point to start it, and then we're gonna build it out across the county. But because of the state law, we have to do it jurisdiction by jurisdiction, and it has to be adjacent. So like to go north, like Brunswick wants to join. So in order to get Brunswick to join, we first have to get Medina Township, and then Brunswick Hills Township, and then the city of Brunswick.
Is it the township, or is it a property owner in the township?
Well, it has to be each jurisdiction, but then there has to be a project in each of those jurisdictions. So that's how we're working with Medina County Sanitary Engineer Amy Lyon Galvin, because she has in about 96% of the county, she has a facility in each village, city, township. So we're working with her to do an energy efficiency project at each of her facilities. And it could be a small project, it could be $1,000 lighting upgrade project.
So her project in that township, then the township would join, so a trustee or something would be a
Yes.
member of the, up
That's
to 15 of them.
Correct.
So the first 15, whoever gets in,
Yes.
that's who will be on it, because currently there's 5.
Yeah,
The city has 2, the county has 3.
correct.
So if Medina Township comes in, it'll be the city 2,
Yeah.
county 3, and 1 Medina Township person.
Yes, and then the board only meets when there's a project that has to be discussed and voted on. But at least this way, we have control over it versus, it could also be,
Who has control?
well, the board, the government entities have control over it.
Well, the government entities will always have control over it, right? Because if it goes in their jurisdiction, it has to be a government person that goes on the board.
But if it, let's say if Medina Township had a project and it was a private property owner, that private property owner would be the person getting on the board.
And so that's why we're working with a sanitary engineer, because she is the property owner in 14 different jurisdictions, and she only has 1 seat on the board representing multiple projects.
So she's not gonna add somebody else.
Correct, that's correct.
So it can't be like 13 county people and 2 city people.
No, correct, yeah. So our law director, I think, did have a chance to review everything, because as you know, we asked
Mhm.
for this to be subject to the law director's approval. And of course, because we worked with the Toledo Port Authority, their attorney set all this up, and they're not charging us any money, so we were trying to be as fiscally conservative as possible with our dollars.
Now, you know that if you're not charging money, that doesn't mean you're not being charged any money.
Well, do
Nobody
you-
does anything for free.
Okay, I know, but we're not, like, economic development is not, we're not writing a check.
Okay, I get it, no.
But if you wanna write a check, you can.
No, I don't want to. Mr.
Okay,
Hu-
how are they collecting? Are they collecting their money, say, through interest for the $25,000 loan?
Yeah,
Is
they
that how
charge
they're getting paid back?
they charge a fee.
Okay.
So, Mr. Huber, after reading this lengthy documentation, do you have any questions or concerns or observations?
I read it 3 times to finally try to understand what it does. I thought for what it's doing, it was really more complicated than it needed to be, in my opinion, but I
Yeah.
didn't see anything that raised any flags that the city will get into trouble doing this, so, and Toledo has had some success with what they started, so I don't have any objections to it.
And plus, this is a voluntary program. Somebody who wants a project has to sign up for it.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly correct, because we did get a call from another attorney in Medina that said, what is this ESID? Because they thought it was a mandatory thing, and we said, no, this is all voluntary. This is if a property owner chooses to do this, to take advantage of it, they can do this, special financing using this tool. So this is completely voluntary. We're not making anybody do anything.
Oh.
We did ask for the emergency clause, so I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that
So
also.
Paul has some questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, and I'll be honest with you, I got lost in which exact section it is, but it's titles, or it's paragraph 7, changes in state and federal laws. Okay, what if we're halfway through one of these pieces where we're paying back, or whatever state we happen to be in, and laws change, the state changes their laws, the feds change their laws, and these are no longer valid? What happens?
You don't usually change the law and make it effective retroactively
Okay.
to the detriment of somebody who
Right.
went
Okay.
forward in good faith. And that doesn't happen very often. In fact, it's only in cases of emergency or almost government taking type situations where you make that retroactive to take away what somebody else previously contracted for.
Okay. And then somewhere in here, I also read, or that made me think, and is there any way that the city could be held liable for any debts encumbered by any one of these people taking advantage of the ESID? When I read it, it just kind of read that way, that we might be on the hook, but I don't think we are. I just want to,
Well, after 20 years of representing the city of Medina,
I don't think you'd let that happen.
constantly amazed at how we can be held liable.
Okay.
I can't make any guarantees on what might,
But nothing in here.
nothing jumped out that
Okay.
made,
In my understanding, doing this enables a business owner to quote-unquote borrow money, have it assessed against their property rather than getting a mortgage against their property, which frees up other lending possibilities for them. But it does increase their taxes because it's an assessment, let's call it, not their real estate tax, but their tax bill, because assessments are in their tax bill. And then they pay that back, which becomes a priority, I assume.
Yeah,
under
and that
the-
assessment's gonna stay on their property tax bill, so even if that person sells it, I would imagine that the person selling that property might wanna pay that assessment off, because the person buying it might say, well, look, you need to take care of this debt over here before I buy this property. So
But
it's,
the debt is related to the improvement related to the property. That's
Yes.
why I thought it'd be an assessment.
exactly, so I don't know
Because-
why the city would ever be on the hook for something that
Because it would be on the tax.
unless it was our project that we didn't pay for.
Okay. The only thing I could see is if somebody, if they went bankrupt or something and there was a tax foreclosure, I don't know if that would take priority over a water lien for the city. If we would, if that would.
well, I
since
think
it's-
any foreclosure could take priority.
So that's
All
the
it takes is
question.
the judge to sign his name to his order saying
Right.
this lien is secondary to
Right?
other priorities of the judge. So that's where I thought this could come undone, because we have this CHIP agreements, and some of these deals go south because people can't make money and don't pay their bills, and then everything collapses in, and nothing's getting paid, and then the property goes into foreclosure, and all these grants we gave through the CHIP program become problematic, and maybe this does too. Then the trial judge has to decide what is he gonna do with this.
The disadvantage of this is that it's usually at a higher interest rate than typically you could borrow from a commercial lender, I think. I thought when we had a presentation here a couple of years ago,
Those
they were
private
talking about it, they were
lenders were
throwing
a
out the
little bit
rates, and it was
higher.
like, the rates are higher than I could borrow, so why would you do it?
Yeah.
And there's probably reasons you do it, because of your borrowing situation and be able to put it on the tax bill and pay it over time, but it's not like everybody's gonna be jumping on the bandwagon to do it.
Yeah, we know of a few that are interested in doing it. I was gonna say something to that. Lost track.
Emergency clause.
No, it was before, no, it had something to do with, I'll think of it.
But she was talking about the emergency clause, and I was kind of against this whole,
Well, could we,
Go
before
through
we
it.
get to the emergency
Okay.
clause, I just wanted to clarify that what we're asking council for to approve actually is one resolution and then two ordinances. So we did originally ask for the emergency clause because of the pending projects in the city, plus the other issue now is the county has borrowed this monies, and Mike Kovac has to have the information this week so that he can put that assessment in the January 2020 bill so that the Port Authority can be paid back.
otherwise you're gonna wait a
Otherwise,
year.
it's gonna be waited, yeah.
So the question is, we've been going through this, and we had a lot of emergency clause coming, and we have this situation where we told her last meeting, we'll go to finance and then to council tonight, because we wanted to read it, because she gave it to finance last meeting, but we didn't want to take any action. But I think going forward, I think we have to really be cautious of the emergency clause, because we have 12 of them on tonight's agenda,
A lot of them on tonight.
out of 18.
Oh, okay.
And so we can't do that, because that takes away the right, to anybody to do a 2504 appeal, which is to appeal the approval of the ordinance and say we don't want to do it or whatever. I think that's what it's called, but that's just on a, I don't know what it's called.
But in this case, we did say,
Right.
last meeting.
Yes, we did.
Let us look at it, bring it back, and we go.
But going forward, we want to try to get away from that as much as we
Yeah.
can. And we know that things come up, but we
Yeah.
want to try to make a concerted effort to stop doing the emergency clauses as much as we do.
Yeah, well, I know that you know this already, John, but, for the other council members, so we started this research and the discussions in our Economic Development Committee meetings last year, like September, October timeframe, and did a lot of research. So there were a lot of public meetings about it. Not that, I mean, we did have other public members show up, like other businesses and stuff show up. And then in May, we brought it back to the Economic Development Committee, and that's when they voted to move forward with forming the ESID. Now, you saw how large the packet is, which I'm probably in violation of the Pay Reduction Act, but that's why it took so long to get everything together, is because there's a lot of legal work involved in putting this together.
Don't blame the lawyers.
I didn't say that.
Well, so what she wants out of us is there's 3 ordinances, there's a resolution and 2 ordinances on tonight's agenda. So we probably have to pass them the same way at finance. We have to pass, the resolution first and then the 2 ordinances. So does anybody have any more questions for clarifications on the whole concept and project that we're gonna be adopting here?
I don't have a question, but I gotta tell you, when we talked about it last time, that jurisdiction to jurisdiction, that
Yes.
connection to me seems so cumbersome. So whoever thought about engaging the Amy Lyons and the sanitary engineer, that's genius. I mean, I don't know who thought of it, but that was so bright.
It's a group effort.
Yeah, well, congratulations, because it seemed to me, how would you get those,
Right.
to get those blocks connected, even to get to Brunswick, which isn't far.
I actually think she volunteered because she serves on the Economic Development
Yeah.
Committee, and when we were talking about how we could do this, I think she sort of volunteered to step up, and we thought, yeah, that's a great idea to help streamline the process. But to your point, though, this is a very clunky program, because when we were researching it, we thought this is just, why is it set up this way? But it is the way that the Ohio Revised Code has it set up, and we've had some initial conversations with our legislators about trying to simplify this, but I don't know if that's,
Yeah, we've approached both Senator Obhoff's office and Steve Hambley about trying to amend the legislation. We're still learning, but we shared with them our experience as someone who's trying to implement this. And it's been a decade in state law, and there aren't very many of them in the state because it's so clunky.
Yeah.
It's
So,
yeah. Truthfully, really, it's gotta be understandable. It's a long, and it is kind of contorted process to get where you wanna go. But anyway, using the sanitary engineer was, that's brilliant.
All right, well, Jim, if you have a motion on the resolution part of it, if you can make a motion.
I'll make a motion approving resolution for petition and articles of incorporation for the creation and government of an energy special improvement district with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Then I'll make another motion to proceed with certain City of Medina special energy improvement projects by way of special assessments with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
Any further discussion? This is the creation of the district after the adoption of the articles. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And finally,
And my third motion would be an ordinance levying special assessments for the Medina County project, the SID, with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
and this is the one for the county to enable to do it and put the assessment on their land. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, Kimberly, you made it through. Bethany?
thank you.
thank you very much.
All right, so now we move on to 19151, the 2019 city auction. Nino?
Thank you, Mr. President. So after your comments, I feel real bad asking for consideration for the emergency clause on this one. I really do, because we talked about it in the mayor's staff meeting with the department heads about proper uses and so forth. However, when we submitted this, the intent was not to have the emergency clause. The auctioneer called me. He has an opening on October 12th, which is a Saturday. It's Columbus Day weekend. It works better for our staff because we have a carpet replacement project going on in service and engineering, so our staff will be here. If that consideration would be given, we'd appreciate it. It just works with our timeline.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
Any discussion or comment, Mr. McCauley? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 19152, request to proclaim October 4th, 2019 as Made in Medina County Day.
Yes.
Kimberly?
Thank you, Mr. President. So, yeah, this request is to proclaim October 4th, 2019 as our Made in Medina County Day. It goes with our Made in Medina County Manufacturing Expo. It's an effort to celebrate and acknowledge the investments and contributions made by our local manufacturing companies, what they contribute to the economy of the city and the county, and to show our dedication to maintaining a business-friendly climate. We are joining the city of Brunswick and the city of Wadsworth. They are also declaring this October 4th as our Made in Medina County manufacturing. And the Medina County Commissioners also are proclaiming this. So we would respectfully request councils to do the same.
Questions?
No funding needed, no emergency clause needed either.
Move to approve. Second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 19153, expenditure for holiday lighting. Who put this in here?
You know?
So,
I did not.
I made this request, we're back on it again, this is another year. I requested to appropriate $10,000 from the electric irrigation funds. Currently, the electric irrigation fund account has zero money in it. However, if you recall, we will be getting a $33,000 payment each March for the next 3 Marches. So that'll.
That's not correct, but,
I think it's 30, isn't it?
no, I mean the marches.
Yeah, Marches.
Oh.
No, that part's
That's
grammatically,
poor
that's
English.
that's messed up.
Yeah, it's messed up. But,
What are you teaching?
so I request this because this will pay for what I thought would be the maintenance of the lighting on the square. And then I also wanted to try to see if some of the lighting, if we purchase some additional lighting to put on the poles, because Brian Hilberg brought that up when he was here. He wanted to put lighting on the poles on Route 42. There's plugs already on the poles. Just wrap some lights around them as they go down, and plug them in. We don't know how many lights will be needed for each pole. It depends how tight you wrap them, I guess. But that was my idea with the use of the money, would be for lights down on North Court Street, and also updating and having Bobby Duker come out and do his maintenance thing again, make sure the parapet clips are good again. He did them all last year, so it shouldn't be as intensive this year, but that would assist in that process. So, does anybody have any question? I wanted to use the electric irrigation money rather than city money, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to add to that, though.
Could we use the ESID to fund that, those $10,000?
I'm sorry?
The ESID, the energy LED, are there gonna be LED lights?
Yes, they will be.
See?
But I don't think we want to have an assessment on that, though, but I don't know. Because this is money coming from electric irrigation. It's not, I don't know how that would all work.
I was listening.
Thank you.
We're going to have Mr. Lamb?
It's okay. It's Kimberly.
Sorry.
I think we ought to add to what we're doing for this year. We ought to try to include as much as we could towards Southtown, because so much has been invested in the idea and the project and the commitment, both with Main Street and with the city and the developer, that it seems like the idea is to connect Southtown to the downtown, which has a number of obstacles. Even though the new lighting is there, obstacles like, well, the sidewalks are only 4 feet wide, and downtown they're wider. You know, there's things that people particularly aren't gonna just walk across Smith Road, because there's, it's a gas station, it's a muffler shop. But the lighting, when we talked to the folks at the Southtown meetings, they were pretty interested in the idea of at least starting to expand our program south, so that we can begin to include them, in not only in this, in the Christmas lighting program, but then further in the things that we do throughout the year, like the flower pots, to include them in, because it makes so much sense to try to hook that in and make it part of one, rather than to have these a separate thing. For it to be successful in the idea of the inception to being successful, I think we really need to do that.
I guess I understand, as far as the C9 bulbs that we had, and we bought the strands of lights. What do we have left over that we have in storage on those? Do you recall?
We have 1,000 bulbs, and then the string lighting, which tie into the sockets, I believe there's probably 500 feet.
Okay, so not that
I
much.
can double check that, because we restrung.
And the question is, when would the Farmers Exchange project be completed? October. So the question's gonna be, do you want lights on that building? Do we have lights? Do we, so what you just did is you just complicated it because it's not 10,000, it's not gonna be enough to do all that stuff. So the question is, how does people feel about using the electric aggregation money still to do this?
I think it's a good use for it.
So the question would be then, do you want to increase it like to 15,000? Because now you just added, you have to buy more lights.
Well,
To put on the buildings down there, parapet clips. I think we have some parapet clips, but not that many.
No, because we replaced what was broken.
And do we require the business owner to do it rather than the city?
Well, my preference would be if we do the South Town, we don't do North Court. If we're gonna do the South Town, and maybe next year we do North Court, but we can only,
Right.
with the amount of money that we're gonna pay Chippewa Roofing, as well as our staff spend a great deal of time, you know, there's some limit that we get to.
Physically.
Yes.
The physical town, sure.
Yes, sir.
But-
I think Bill's point is well made, that to include South Town, they should be included with these other things, but I don't think we can do both.
Right.
Well, it would be a good step probably then if we, because it is a pretty reasonable idea, you know, the place to go with this, with the lighting then would be to say, okay, well, so this year, we had a discussion, and so this year, we'll do the lighting on 42, we can do, like you said, the stuff that we talked about, Brian talked about, and then maybe next year we can plan to expand that, you know, to one, to the.
You're gonna have to have a better plan what buildings are gonna be included, you know, how you're gonna, who's gonna participate, how far are you gonna go down? Are you gonna stop at the Farmers Exchange block?
Bill's house.
Are you gonna?
Well, it's not, I mean, it's not, that we'd have to do it, I think we would try to do exactly what we do in the historic district. You know, we have limits in the historic district,
Right.
and Lafayette Road is a limit there, so we would see incrementally, I think, as we did with the lighting in the district, as we tried to move down the other streets, the side streets, not just the interior of it, but as we move down,
I
what
guess.
buildings we could get, and I think I think we would, it would only be reasonable when we do it to offer it to
Well, because of
any
the-
buildings that's there, we can't skip over.
Because the money for the flower pots, I mean, where do we come up with that? It's about 15,000 a year, I think. Where do we get that in the general administration, I think?
That comes out of Parks.
Parks.
And our problem right now, though, is we have, Jansen, correct me if I'm wrong, 72 pots. And I thought we could add more, but the problem in adding more is then we need another cart with
Yeah.
water. We need three more staff to deadhead and do everything. So we either have to take the existing 72 and space them out more, or we could chat administratively and see, okay, if we added, for argument's sake, another 5 or 6 or 8 or whatever, you know, could we still do it within the existing confines of the staff that we have and the water truck that we have?
The other issue is the sidewalk width. We couldn't fit our
Oh, that's a problem
cars
down there,
safely
too.
in the area.
Well, maybe we can work something out with some nonprofits to try to work with the city to try to put some of those things together, including the maintenance of it and the water, which is really, we can, you know, we could work on that another day, but I think the lighting is something that we should definitely make note of for at least for next year, to try to begin to move south.
Well, I think, my personal opinion is, I think the lighting draws a lot of people here.
And
Because I
money.
think- And money, which I think Matt's here from Main Street, and he shows us that every year what these events draw and how, you know, how much money is generated from an economic development perspective. And I think that we're becoming known for that, and I think people expect it. I think
Well,
they.
the problem is
they-
that it's a good idea, but you're trying to do it with the staff that you had that didn't do any of this 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And needles wore out, everybody, this goes back to what I was saying the last time we had a meeting. Administratively, we're all kind of beat.
No, we get it. Mr. Buckley does a great job.
Well, quick comment if I may. So we had a request from the folks that bought the Stan Sheets building. They wanted the city to extend that, and we told them no, if you recall. And then also the consideration for other building owners as the corridor of the square. So I just want to mention that while we talk about expanding.
Well, we have to figure out a better plan. I think we've been doing a great job internally for what we've been doing, but there has to be probably, since it's morphing into something bigger, some other kind of a group effort, or maybe, like you said, nonprofit, somebody to assist in this stuff.
Well, I think it's and probably other people that we would bring in to take, to take the load off of the city employees, that we would, what we can get from a nonprofit is one thing, what we could get by hiring somebody too. In conjunction with that, we could probably do it.
With raising funds to help pay for all
We
this
have-
maintenance and
right,
stuff.
right.
Because it does help us from an economic standpoint, it's a big help.
It is.
And from an event standpoint, I mean, we get a lot of people coming here.
And it's, like we're talking about, it's becoming so big, we need an organization almost to start taking charge of it, not just,
Not just,
you know.
Not
Right, not just us.
Not just,
Right,
you know,
exactly.
Yeah.
and Main Street helping, Main Street
Yes,
does a lot.
Main Street does a
For
lot.
Candlelight Walk, when they organize the trees and the garland, and I mean, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, they do a little bit.
That's Kimberly.
Why are we only spending 10,000 if you have 33? Why can't you just use all of it to do?
Well, I didn't want to
all
be
of-
greedy, first of all, and I thought that, we have a history of how much it costs us each year to do this. And it's usually costs us, I think, 5 to 7, or 4 to 7, or something like that.
2,500 typically to 3,000 for the roofer to go and do his maintenance, and then the remainder is
The lights.
buying lights and
To
pieces
burn
and
down.
parts that we're going on our 8th season.
So,
So when you pick the 10,000 number, you just pick 10,000
because I calculated about 5,000 for North Court Street to buy the lights and put them up. Because there's 34 poles.
Oh, they were going, so you were thinking that they would wrap the pole
Right.
with the greenery and the lights?
No,
or
just with lights, I don't, just so at nighttime, when you
Oh.
drive down there, it'll be, because you can, each pole has a plug, so you can plug it right into that pole.
Okay. Well, we did get one request from one business owner that said they would like to have the lights on year-round. They think it would be a nice ambiance.
No, well, there
And I
would be, but I
said,
think
well,
it
I don't
would
know, but
eliminate
I-
the attraction.
Yeah.
Because I think when it comes out, people are excited about it. If you had it all year, there'd be no excitement.
Well, I think it would cost a lot more in electricity too.
Well, electricity-wise, it costs nothing because they're all LEDs, but I think it's just something people look forward to see. I don't think you get it on all year.
So we could really do a lot for 33,000 then.
Oh, you could do a lot, but I don't think we could do it all in 1 year.
Okay.
But, so I think that we could do it this year with 10, and then see what we could plan next year, what the cost would be to do Southtown, let's call it, and then figure out how to do it.
Right. And I think it's good that we understand that the other thing that's really important with it is that it's maintained, and that effort goes in every year by the city to maintain it,
Yeah.
because if it start, if we didn't, people would come, and it would start to look like lights were hanging off the building, that would really not be, that's not the image that we want to project. So I think the idea that we're maintaining it first of all, we're trying to maintain it, and then I guess gradually expanding it is a smart move.
But I think I agree with you, it's so getting to a point where you're gonna have a separate, either nonprofit or somebody try to take charge of it with our assistance.
Right.
To keep it going.
Well, you
Because-
could pretty easily put together a pretty big group connecting a number of nonprofits that could work to do it, as long as the city stayed, intimately involved in it.
I think I like that. I mean, because that would lessen the burden on the service
Yes.
department to, their involvement. I mean, you still have Bobby Duker, who's a private individual doing it, but he's done it, he knows how to do it.
Right.
So there's a savings there about, his experience. And when he knows it,
Yeah.
you put him up, so. What do people think? Well, we'll do the 10 this year and then
Yeah.
try to come up with a plan or figure out how we can expand it into Southtown and make it more
And let Brian
impactful
know
for
that
those
we're naming
businesses.
we're naming that expansion.
Yeah, it was
after him.
Brian's idea.
The Brian Hilbert Christmas Light Northern expansion.
The North Pole?
All right.
So,
Yes,
Chris,
yes,
are you not doing parapets on Southtown? You're doing the
Not
North
this
Pole?
year. Because we don't know which ones to do, we don't know how far it should go, and then we don't know,
I could get you that list tomorrow morning. I would, and here's where I'm coming from, I'm sorry to interrupt. From the merchants in the stores in the district and major partners, we raise about $28,000 every year for Candlelight Walk. It pays for the trees and the advertising and the marketing. Majority of that is funded by the small businesses around the square, and we're starting to get support from Southtown as well. This year, we're expanding the holiday flags and the garlands on the new light posts going south down to Lafayette. So if you would be willing, I would be happy to get permission slips signed as we did 8 years ago when we did the buildings on the square.
Well, I guess the question is,
Further-
with buildings, and it would be Bobby Duker who would do it. I guess that wouldn't be city people, because we don't do those. Bobby does those,
The
right?
horizontal and the verticals would be the roofer.
The roofer.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right, maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea, because we're not gonna be involved in putting those on. I mean, we just have to pay the
Further,
roofer.
maybe we have,
And
to
the
your
materials.
point, maybe we have a discussion between the city and Main Street that with your financial support, we take on the responsibility of coordinating all that so that Nino's guys, or Nino doesn't have to worry about it.
If you could figure out the buildings and stuff, I don't mind coming back to us and asking us what that cost would be to put the
Sure.
lights on the buildings and, the parapets of the buildings and the verticals on the buildings further down in Southtown, and what number would that would be, because we could calculate pretty quickly the cost, because it's just linear feet times the bulbs.
And vertical.
And vertical, yes.
And that doesn't, that doesn't impact on you then,
No.
that part of it. okay.
That's all Bob.
Other than the tie-in points, we just have
Yeah.
to figure out power
Yeah.
points.
But we need to know that sooner than later, because Bobby,
Yeah.
he doesn't have all the time in the world either.
I'll get that to you by the end of Wednesday.
Because we could talk about it next finance meeting, is that, okay, for the next finance, we can talk about that after.
And As an aside, have you considered, or would you consider asking the businesses on North Court to contribute to the lights for the poles?
I think we could, but with the electric irrigation money, I don't know what the participation would be. I mean, we always can ask for assistance for maintenance, for example.
Yeah.
Because after a few years, some of those may burn out, or probably not, but they go for 50,000 hours. But if something happened to them, we probably want funds for them to help participate in that, because we're doing something for them.
That'd be a good question for the new organization that's going to be formed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great, because they can coordinate all that. Because what we're doing is trying to draw people to
Sure.
them, so that they.
For North Court, just visually, I would suggest consider pole decorations. I don't know if wrapping the poles in lights would actually show up because of all the ambient light. So maybe some of the larger pole things that have like the garlands on it and the lights inside, visually, I think that might show up more.
The question is, Brunswick does that, and I kind of agree with you, but the question is, what do we want to be? And a lot of communities have those pole things that hang off the pole, that candy canes, or,
Yeah.
or trees, or wreaths, or whatever. I guess, I don't know, I think we're different. I know what you're talking about, the ambient lighting, but I guess we'd have to see one decorated to see what it looked like.
Yeah, I'd like to see, because I don't think it's that bright. Do you think, I don't think it's that bright. Where the pole is, I
I
don't,
think you're gonna have to use really big lights to make it show up. Because even when we wrap the historic poles around the square,
Yeah.
and we've doubled the number of lights we put on each pole, they still don't, it's just barely there.
yeah,
So I guess what we could do is do one of them,
see how it looks.
and see how it looks, and then determine if we want to do what you're talking about, Matt, or wrap them, because we'd be able to see.
Yeah.
What about doing the trees?
No, they're
It's
too.
pretty little, though.
And plus, we talked today with Jansen, and he has an issue on South Court, because we wrap those trees, he has to trim them every couple of years to shape them the way he wants, and I don't think that on North Court, that, they're so small, it would be years before that would be even a thought to do. Because I don't think it would be worth
So we're
the
putting this on
effort.
hold until next.
No, I think we can vote on this and do it, because we gotta order some of it, and then wrap one of them, and then, I don't know if we have any of those smaller lights to wrap it, just to see what it looked like.
For a test, we do.
You do, okay.
Yes.
But we still have to
I
get
like
Bobby
that.
going, so we might as well do this, because we're gonna use the money anyways for maintenance, and we're buying the light stuff or whatever.
I didn't get a heads up when we're gonna test them, so we can take a look, you know.
To see, yeah, we can do it, yeah. Okay.
Preferably tonight.
Move to approve to use 10,000 from the electric aggregation funds for North Court lighting and maintenance of the existing lighting.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Don't have any money left, right?
Right, so it's coming in March.
Well, it's coming in March, I guess we'll have to use it out of the general administration fund, but it's gonna be reimbursed through, general administration will be like it'll be in advance, I guess, it'll be in advance.
Okay, I know.
I know,
Be paid back with
you don't like advances.
It's fine, we'd answered this question earlier, we don't have any, I'm like, how are you spending money we don't have?
Well,
I get it, it's out of aggregation funds that we're going to get.
Yes, correct. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 19154, RFP for drug screening related professional services. Who's doing this one?
Me.
Mayor?
So we do this every year. Right now, integrity verification's the current contractor, but we do this annually. The current contract expires at the end of the year, so we're just trying to get ahead of this and be ready to go.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 19155, request a transfer of city land to the Medina City Development Corporation, CAC. Kimberly?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Now that council decided to move forward with the east-west oriented parking deck facility, we have an opportunity to increase the size of the lot that is now owned by the Medina City Development Corporation, which is where our infill project will go. By adding this additional land, this will allow for more flexibility of the downtown development mixed-use project, and hence potentially add more value to the project benefiting our TIF, which we put the TIF in to help offset the cost of the parking deck. So, we talked about it at the CIC meeting, and for those of you that are involved with that, and it seemed like that.
So do you have the dimensions of the parcel to be added to the existing parcel on Liberty?
Yes, so I brought this map.
No, she doesn't have, it's not in ours. Yeah, but she has a different one, because this one, we have that strand in here, but there's a parcel that's probably 30 feet by 130, or what is it?
Doesn't say here.
Not on ours, it doesn't say, but I thought I saw one at CAC that had dimensions on it.
No, I don't, because this is 140 wide, which has always been 140 wide, but now it's going to 134 feet deep.
Okay, so we know what it is. It's 134 feet deep because it was 80 feet deep before.
Yes, okay.
So we know the answer. So it's going to be 54 feet by 140 feet. That's the new parcel that's going to be added, which is the Solly's parking lot. So it's going to be pretty much the entire Solly's parking lot.
I brought this might be a better picture. I don't know if this is the one that was in the packet. So,
Yeah, we got that one. We have that
so
one.
this is what you already transferred.
Right, with a dotted
To
line.
the
is.
city.
Yeah.
Now, this is the part
Yeah.
that we want to add.
And that's going to be 54 feet deep going north-south, and then it's still 140 feet wide to match the
Yes,
curve
that's
parcel.
correct. So this will give more flexibility,
For
because
project.
maybe they might want to set the building back and be closer to the deck, or maybe they want the building to come more to the sidewalk and leave more space here, so, or maybe they just, could do a bigger building.
Yes, they could do a bunch of
Yeah.
different things. It gives the developer more.
That's what we talked about,
Yeah.
the parking deck.
That's why we like the east-west orientation.
Yeah.
So the only thing I wasn't sure about, and I think Patrick was here, is Patrick here? So I think the funding for this is only gonna be like a couple $1,000s, which they could take it out of the parking deck fund to do the survey and the lot split.
Well, we want to get it reimbursed, of course, through the
Of
TIF.
course.
We wouldn't want to
Or
pay
maybe
for
we
it.
could use electrical aggregation money for
No.
this.
That we don't have.
So Patrick, this is a small modification, and so either A, you don't like this committee, it's going to be paid out of that parking fund to be reimbursed by the TIF, or B, it would be paid out of the CIC monies.
But I think we got $1 million grant, so can't we use some of the grant monies for the,
That's why we got,
Big parking deck.
that's why we have the parking deck. So that's why we're only going to be paying 2.8 million around there for the parking deck rather than 3.8.
so the question is, how much would it cost to do this work?
It's probably gonna be, like you said, $2 or $3 million.
So,
So the CIC could pay for it.
And that makes sense because the CIC is going to be doing the ground lease and get reimbursed through the project that happens on the site, so that would make sense to me.
Yeah, I think we have enough
50.
money that we could cover that, yeah.
50-some
So I just need to know who the surveyor will be.
You can work with Patrick on that, I guess.
Whoever, so.
So is everybody okay transferring that land over?
yes.
Okay,
So we are not
Second.
asking for the emergency clause, by the way.
thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Work with Patrick on the surveyor, and
Okay.
then we can approve it at the CIC board to pay the surveyor.
Okay.
19-156, purchase of a 2020 F-150 pickup and a 2020 F-Series cab and chassis for the water department. Mr. Pacoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. So these two vehicles for the water department, we talked about them in the budget process. The first one, the F-150, will replace a '07 truck number 25, which was a smaller pickup truck. That vehicle will not go to auction. It'll be reassigned to the Public Buildings Department for the maintenance custodian to drive as his truck, which was a hand-me-down from previous water vehicle. Has seen better days. So that's that truck. And then the 2020 F-Series cabin chassis, that we're asking for a utility bed. It seems to be the trend, different townships are using. We have a better service product with the utility bed. And that will be put on by Fallsway. So when I initially asked for this request to go through, they asked for 2 POs. So since that time, the vendor had called me and asked if we could just do one. It'd be easier for finance. So it'd be a PO for $69,500 made out to Montrose Ford,
Questions?
rather than splitting it.
It's in the budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Motion carries. 19157, expenditure for Chippewa roofing for Fire Station Number 2 roof replacement. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for one on Lake Road. It's the main roof area over all 3 apparatus bays, so it's 3 bays wide, 2 deep. We've repaired it several times, and Bobby is up there, and again, it's the original roof. I think it's close to 30 years old now, and I guess it's just done. There's no patching it anymore.
Is he putting a new rubber roof, or is he
Yeah,
sealing?
it'd be a membrane roof, similar to what they did
Yeah.
at Station 1 a couple years back.
Move to approve with emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
Any questions for the chief? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 19158, grant application with FAA extension of the north-south taxiway at the airport. Who's doing this? Mr. Hubert or Patrick?
The next 3 actually all pertain to the same project, and that's the extension of the taxiway, the north-south taxiway. This one, the one to the FAA, is the one that's, we really need to turn around quickly. We didn't anticipate doing this project this year. In fact, we told the FAA we were going to defer our funds till next year because we couldn't meet their timeline to bid the project by, I think, June 30th or something. They came back after the fact and wanted us to do it, gave us an extension. When they ask, you kind of have to do it. So we are getting the grant. We only received the grant, I think Greg got it on Friday, and we have to turn around and deliver it to Detroit, the FAA in Detroit by Wednesday. So the FAA grant is what's kind of driving the urgency of this. I laid out in the request what the grant entails. The city, the initial design of 40,000, the city's picking that up. The grant does not apply. Construction and construction administration totals $460,000. The FAA grant will pick up $414,000 of that. The next item is the state grant, which picks up an additional $23,000. That one's not a rush. But the city's total out of pocket for this $500,000 project will end up being $63,000.
The state share of the 23, doesn't that go against the 63 or no?
No, what it is, the FAA pays 90%, and the state pays 5%, and then we have to pay 5%. And that applies to construction and construction administration.
Oh. All right, questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then 19159, grant application with ODOT Aviation for extension of north-south taxiway airport. This is the 23,000.
Correct, same thing, this one is not a rush.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a question. What if we don't get the ODOT grant? How's that impact? We're on the hook for 86,000?
We would be, but these, we're gonna get it. You know, they've already committed it to us.
Okay.
It's just going through the paperwork, so to speak.
All right, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 19160, expenditure for Delta Airport Consultants Task Order Number 2.
This is number 2. We, as you might remember, we just authorized them as our airport consultant this summer. Again, task order number 2 is the construction administration. And because we're changing the layout, the footprint of the airport, they have to modify the airport layout plan, which is an official document that's filed with the FAA. And that cost is included in here as well.
And we have to use Delta Airport Consultants.
We elected to, yeah.
Because there's really nobody else, because they're expensive.
No, there is. We, Greg and I reviewed, we had a response, I think we had 3 or 4 firms that came in, and we decided to go with Delta again, at least for the next year, because we were in the middle of kind of some active projects.
Okay. Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 19161, purchase of one 2020 Chevrolet 5500 HD LCF diesel for the cemetery department. Jansen?
Yeah, thank you. This is a low cab forward diesel dump truck that's going to replace a 2004 F-350 that we discussed in the 2019 budget. We're going with a little bit bigger chassis on this because the original F-350 was undersized for hauling around dirt from burials. So we're asking to purchase this under the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program. I did ask for the emergency clause just because the outfitting is only good for 30 days. So I wanted to see if we can get this through with that. If not, probably just have to increase the amount slightly. I can make sure that.
Yeah, we don't want to spend more money, that's not our nature, but
Yeah.
we don't like the emergency clauses either. Can't win.
Move to approve with emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause?
Any further discussion? Paul?
Of course. Why do we have to go to California to buy a truck for Ohio?
So this is through the National Auto Fleet Group, which has a Sourcewell contract for Chevy, GM, and several other makes. And they source it's actually coming from Michigan, they're just like a pass-through as part of the Sourcewell contract. And since this is a low cab forward, those trucks aren't on our state bid because of how they're designed, so I had to purchase it through this. It's the same program we used to purchase our Terex bucket truck last year.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And finally, 19162, right-of-way agreement with Wheeling Lake Erie Railway. Patrick?
Thank you. This just came up last week. Our South Elmwood Bridge project, as you know, butts right up to the railroad. And some of the railroad right-of-way, it kind of bisects the bridge. We're not doing any work on the railroad facilities, so we don't need a permit from them. But they wanted us to enter into this agreement with them and with our contractor before they would allow us to go into their property and do the work we need to do.
Commissioner Huber, did you review this agreement?
Did,
Okay.
that's good.
Okay. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring before finance? All right, adjourned.